More than 300 students at Burn Academy walked out of classes at 10 o'clock on Monday, March 19th, to honor the 17 students killed at a high school in Parkland, Florida last month, and to urge lawmakers to find a path forward to ensure better safety at schools from gun violence. An eerie quiet prevailed on Seminary Avenue in Manchester Village that morning as students exited their classrooms and lined one side of the street. Some held signs, but most simply stood quietly for the 17 minutes the walkout lasted. 1 minute for each of the 17 students killed in the Florida shooting rampage. Meanwhile, more than half of the school's student population opted to stay inside in their classrooms and did not take part in the walkout. Before it began, we talked with 3 of the students who were leaders in the walkout to hear what they were trying to accomplish and where they saw things going from here.
I was really inspired by the Parkland High School students and their ability to not just mourn the loss of their fellow classmates, but to use their anger to ignite this whole movement that's happening around the country. And specifically, like, why we chose to organize this, I think a really important piece was not letting the flame die out. After watching their speeches basically go viral on social media, and the march that they're also planning in DC, that's all been organized by them, has been something really inspiring to us, and just bringing that back to our communities and being the ones that are bringing this to the Manchester community, because there is a lot that we can do as students as BBA, as they said.
I think that's like another thing that spurred the walkout is like no one's going to solve this for us. That's what we've seen in the last 20 years is that, we've just been having the same conversation over and over again as a country. And if nothing happens, someone will die. It may not be us, but somebody will, probably someone our age.
Yes, the goal of the walkout is to raise awareness for the issue, but that's just one of the many, and I feel like the more nuanced goals are within the common sense gun reform that we're all pushing for across the country, and the specific specificities of what exactly common sense gun reform is, because that varies between so many different people. And personally, we believe it's a mandatory waiting period for buying after filing to buy a gun for the first time. It is a comprehensive universal background check that is actually universal and does become united across the on the national scale, because since the passage of the Brady Bill, when Reagan was shot, which was supposed to push across universal background checks, states have been able to kind of just circumvent these laws and really make their background check systems on their own state's basis, which in a lot of states isn't really anything at all.
I think our step after this is really to take this to the State House. Anything that we accomplish locally, after we accomplish anything locally that we can.
The walkout was originally planned for last Wednesday, part of a nationwide series of protests largely led by high school students, concerned that current policies around gun acquisitions and background checks would result in more deaths and shooting violence at schools. But a snowstorm that morning prompted Burn to close for the day, resulting in a postponement of the walkout until Monday. The students and school officials worked together to coordinate the event, and Burn stated that no disciplinary action was going to be taken against the students who left their classrooms for the demonstration. In a message distributed the week before to parents and guardians, school officials stated that they encouraged students to be actively engaged citizens and that their ideas were valued. Headmaster Mark Tashin said that Burn believes strongly in student voices when it comes to education. In this case, given that school safety is about the safety of our learning community, he said, we believe this is an issue in which students and teachers should be heard by our legislators, adding that they will do everything in their power to make Burn a safe place to learn and teach, and ask that legislators do everything in their power to do the same for all schools. Seth Bongartz, the chairman of the school's board of trustees, said the school understood the motivations behind the walkout and were supportive.
Well, as you know, the board went on record kind of in support of the letter written by the student, saying that it's time to do something about kind of the most obvious steps toward making schools safer and placing restrictions on some things that we think are kind of obvious. So the walkout is actually consistent with that posture. Of course, it was student-led. What happens the next time somebody else wants to do something for walkout? And I think the real difference is that this is related directly to the safety of our students. And that's why the board took the position that it took. And that's why we think these kids making the kind of statement they made today is acceptable and something that the board and the entire school is supportive of. Now, that doesn't mean every student has to feel the same way and every student had to participate, because in fact they didn't all participate, and that's okay. But the board does feel strongly the same way that the student who wrote the letter feels, that it's time for action to be taken so that this kind of thing stops.
The walkout took place against the recommendations of the state's Agency of Education, however. According to VermontDigger.org, an online news organization based in Montpelier, Secretary of Education Rebecca Holcomb sent a memo to school administrators on February 23rd, urging them to work with students to find another way to express their demands. She said it was a matter of protecting students, including those who didn't want to take part. In her memo to administrators, Holcomb said, "At times like this, we need to hear our students' voices more than ever. That said, the right to free speech does not extend to disrupting classes, which prevent others from learning, nor to leaving school without permission, which potentially creates a safety threat." This drew a sharp response from the Vermont chapter of the American Civil Liberties Union, which threatened legal action against schools if participating students faced punishment beyond what would be expected for skipping class. After the walkout ended, we talked again with the three students who had helped organize it to get their reactions on how it went.
I was really happy with the turnout. I don't know if happy is the right word, because it did feel really solemn, which is, I think, the tone we were looking for, is to make people realize, especially the people watching, that these are all kids, and it took a lot of bravery from everyone who participated to do it. It really does, because there are plenty of people who did not, and some of them are friends of ours, people in our classes. So to say that, I'm going to stand up for my values, even if people are not following me, to do it alone in a time of controversy, I think that's really, really brave.
Yeah, I'm really proud of the entire, every single student that decided to walk out, because there were some students that I had talked to that were worried of how it was going to turn out. I was very worried of how it was going to turn out, because as we said before, we were expecting about 300 students. I was also really proud to see the amount of community support that we received, and walking down and seeing all the community members that were right by us and supporting us, and that was really appreciated. The power of silence was also really seen in this walkout, and just executing the 17 minutes of silence with all the student support and community support was something really, really powerful, and really helped us to effectively communicate our message.
And it was really great to see how committed all of the students actually were to the message, because I'm a little bit pessimistic, so I assumed that a small but sizable portion of the students would just be there to get out of class for 17 minutes and not really take the whole silence thing and moment of silence and honoring those we've lost to try to further our own beliefs about this. And I thought that they completely wouldn't take that seriously, but everybody around me seemed to be in such solidarity and such support of the issue. That was just utterly fantastic.
For the GNet TV News Project, I'm Andrew McKeever.